coming up from the Northeast Live Studios in Guwahati. Northeast Tonight with Wasbir Hussain.
Hello and welcome to Northeast Tonight, the show that decodes the region. There are two distinct and contrasting narratives among the Nagas today insofar as the road to peace is concerned. One is that of the NSCN-IM and groups backing it that says a separate flag and constitution are integral to Naga identity and therefore a solution cannot be reached unless the Government of India concedes these demands. This group is also talking about the need for integration of Naga areas in the region. The other narrative is that of the 7-member NNPG and groups supporting it, which says talks on issues like integration of Naga areas and other such matters can go on in a democratic manner even after an accord is reached. A peace agreement obviously will be possible when there would just be one narrative because there will be a single Naga peace accord. A new dimension has been added with the war of words escalating during Nagaland's 58th Statehood Day celebrations. Governor and Naga peace interlocutor R.N. Ravi made few key remarks in his address to the Naga people. Ravi said, there can be only one national flag and one constitution in India. The governor also praised the Naga People's Convention that had reached a 16-point agreement in July 1960 with the Government of India that finally led to the creation of the state of Nagaland. Now, the NSCN-IM has denounced the NPC, saying it comprised of treacherous Naga individuals. That is the word the NSCN-IM used. Some would like to interpret the NSCN-IM as being opposed to the creation of Nagaland state itself. The counter opinion to this interpretation is that you cannot denounce the NPC because without the 16-point agreement, Nagaland could perhaps have just remained a district within Assam. The NSCN-IM in the same statement denouncing the NPC has also accused Governor Ravi of trying to hijack the Naga peace talks and went to the extent of saying he was trying to murder the future of the Nagas. In this kind of a scenario, when there is a blistering war of words, can one really expect a solution to the long-standing Naga issue, and if so, when? To discuss the sensitive subject, I am joined from Kohima by Naga Tribes Council advisor, Mr. Jed Lohe, a former minister and speaker of the Nagaland State Assembly. Joining me from Medzifema is Dr. Vizier Sanyu, president of the Overseas Naga Association and a historian. Also joining me from Kohima is Naga Students Federation Assistant General Secretary, Siipuni Philo. From Dimapur, I am joined by Mr. Kahuto Chishi Sumi, spokesman of the Nagaland Gaon Buras Federation. And in Shillong, I have Dr. Xavier Mao, professor at the Northeastern Hill University and a well-known commentator. Gentlemen, welcome to Northeast Tonight. Let me first go to you, Mr. Jed Lohe, advisor of the Naga Tribes Council, former minister and speaker. Mr. Lohe, there is two narratives going on in Nagaland. The NSCN-IM is saying that flag and the constitution is extremely integral for the Naga people. Without the flag and constitution, there can be no solution. The other group, that is the NNPG, is making it very clear that issues like these and other issues can even be discussed in a democratic manner even after a peace agreement is signed. Discussions can go on. So, what is your view on this issue?
Well, Mr. Wasbir, what I understand about the framework agreement that was made between the government of India and the NEHU, out of several years of negotiation, is to have a solution within the ambit of the Indian Constitution and not outside the purview of the Indian Constitution. And in regard to the 7 NMPGs, who entered into similar basic understanding with the government of India in 2017, have also agreed to have solution within the Constitution of India. That's what I believe.
Okay. So which of the two arguments do you think should be accepted by the government of India? Do you think we should stick with the flag and constitution demand, or do you think we should be flexible and continue with the discussions after reaching the peace accord even? Mr. Lohe.
Personally speaking, I'm not against NEHU. I am demanding flag and constitution. What I can't understand the intricacy is that the government of India has made its position very clear to the negotiating party that India will have only one flag and one constitution as a sovereign nation. So if the government of India has made its position clear to the negotiating party, and when the Naga political negotiators have also agreed to appreciate the position of difficulty of one another, and under that very circumstance, both the Naga political negotiators have agreed to have solution. Nobody should try to deviate from the original understanding between the two parties.
Okay. Okay. You hold your thoughts. I'm coming back to you, Mr. Lohe. I'm coming back to you. Let me go to Mr. Siipuni Philo, the Assistant General Secretary of the Naga Students Federation. Mr. Philo, you know, we have all seen, everybody wants, are waiting eagerly for an acceptable and honorable solution to the Naga problem. But during the statehood day, let us talk about recent developments. The governor has once again made it clear that the country can have only one national flag and one constitution. After that, the NSCN-IM has come up with a critical statement and even accusing the Naga People's Convention of being run by, you know, treacherous individuals. But can anyone today deny the fact that the granting of statehood to Nagaland was at least one upgradation? Otherwise, perhaps, Nagaland could have been only a district within Assam. So, is that not worth recognizing, Nagaland being a state for the last 58 years? Mr. Siipuni Philo.
Well, Wasbir, let me said some things very clear before I get to respond to your question. When we talk about the 16-point agreement, it is in fact a 16-point demand, charter of demands rather than an agreement. And most of the points
The
contained in
sound is very
16-point
faint.
charter of demands are yet to be fulfilled. The second thing is, yes,
I can't hear him properly. Sound
the
is very
Federation
faint.
acknowledges the fact that the formation of Nagaland state has its own perks, and we are not in denial of it. The formation of the state has definitely brought about certain good things to a small section of the Naga people. But what is forgotten is the fact that the Naga society is spread across two international countries and 4 Indian states. And this glorification of the 16-point agreement, of the 16-point charter of demands as an agreement itself is a nullity, because most of the, as I've said it earlier, most of the demands contained in those 16-point charter of demands are yet to be fulfilled. The other area of the ongoing peace talk is, I want to go back a little bit to the FA, Framework Agreement, wherein one of my senior presidents and also the advisor to NCC has made it very clear that the FA means a solution within the ambit of the new constitution. But I'd like to also ask him as to what it means by 2 separate entities. It would be good on his part to actually explain his understanding of the word 2 entities.
Okay, we'll get a response. Mr. Siipuni, hold on. We'll try to get a response slightly later from Mr. Lohe. My question to you, Dr. Xavier Mao. Dr. Xavier Mao in Shillong, where do you stand? The 2 narratives, unless there is a meeting point, we don't think a solution can be found that easily, isn't it? What do you think?
Well, any solution to be effective and lasting, it should have a very comprehensive one narrative. Though it is profoundly difficult decision to be made, but what is reasonable, rational, and moral should be the guiding principle, then I think it won't be a problem.
Okay. So
there should be only one narrative. There cannot be many narratives.
Okay, but
if it is so, it will not last long.
Okay, Mr. Lohe, there was a question. There can be only one narrative. That is what Professor Mao is saying. There can be only one narrative. But in a democracy, we all know that there can be many narratives, but we are talking about the reaching a solution. Reaching a solution, one group is asking for a flag and a constitution, the other group is saying that we can wait and have discussions on this later on. So, can we reach a common narrative, because there has to be only one solution, isn't it, Mr. Lohe?
Well, Mr. Wasbirji, the government of India had never given any ambiguity to the Naga people at any point of time. From the very beginning, the government of India has made it clear to us that there will be one solution for all the Nagas. Despite of having parallel negotiations, the 2 negotiations will be converged into one solution. I'm very confident that the government of India has its ready-made mechanism, and therefore it was not a difficulty for the government of India to invite the second group of the political Naga political negotiators under the aegis of Working Committee of 7 NPGs at a later stage. And therefore, I'm very confident that one solution is the answer, not two solutions. That will bring division to the Nagas.
Okay,
the government of India also cannot afford to give two solutions to two parties.
Right. Now, Mr. I will be going soon to Mr. Kahuto Sumi, but Mr. Siipuni, yes, I think Mr. Lohe has made the point that there has to be one solution, but how do you propose to bring about or sort out the differences in perception, differences in approach between the two entities, between the two groups, that is the NSC and IM and the NNPGs? What can be done to bring them together in a common approach to the problem?
Well, it was clear. I mean, the biggest issue with the ongoing peace process is the fact that there are divisions within the two negotiating teams.
Yeah.
Particularly in Nagas, from the Naga side. However, the original understanding of the solution basing on the unique history of the Naga people has to be respected. And as Naga Students Federation, we have been trying our best to bring about reconciliation within these two teams, the leaders of the Naga people, and we have been trying our best to put forward an acceptable common ground, wherein the idea of one issue, one solution is to be respected. However, for as long as the issue of the Naga people is being well understood by every individual, every stakeholder, the idea of one issue, one solution will be a nullity. And it is for even the GOI interlocutor to not create further division within the Naga society, but also respect the fact that the Naga issue is different from all other issues that is prevailing in our country today, and take forth that very peaceful independent spirit.
Okay, hold on. I'm coming back to you, Mr. Siipuni. Let me go to Mr. Kahuto, Chishi, Sumi, spokesman of the Nagaland Gaumburas Federation. First time that we are having a representative from the Nagaland Gaumburas Federation on my program. Mr. Sumi, welcome. My question is, everyone is waiting for an acceptable and honorable solution of the Naga problem. Now, let us talk about the last few days. During the 58th Statehood Day celebration, on the eve of that, Peace Interlocutor and Governor has made it clear that there can be only one national flag and one constitution. And he has praised the Naga People's Convention for taking the trouble, signing the 16-point agreement that led to the creation of the state of Nagaland. Now, after that, we have seen the NSC and IM has denounced the NPC and saying that it was led by quote-unquote treacherous Naga individuals. That is the word they used. Now, in this kind of an atmosphere where there is a war of words is going on, battle of words, do you think the situation will be congenial to reach a peace agreement to the Naga problem?
First of all, good evening, and thank you, Mr. Hussain, for having us on the program. I also wish all my fellow panelists a good evening. Now, what we have to understand, to solve any problem, you need to identify the cause. Now, the Naga struggle for self-determination was based on independence. During the course of the struggle, the Nagas went through a lot of hardships. And during those decades of war with India, Partner, I'm getting a lot of interruptions in the audio feed.
No, we can hear you. Please carry on.
Okay. So, during the course of a decade of war with India in the 50s and 60s, which the masters in the IM have no idea of, there was suffering, immense suffering caused by the people of Nagaland. So the educated liberal leaders in the overground, they decided that we needed a middle ground. And the middle ground was the 16-point agreement. And as Dr. S.C. Jammeh's book, which was very roundly denounced by the IM, it is the bedrock of Naga society. Because Nagas never existed as a nation, as a state, or even as a tribal society. We existed as independent villages. And this state of Nagaland is our first experiment in building a Naga society.
Okay.
The IM talks about Mr. Ravi, our governor, hijacking the Naga national cause and handing it over to others. Well, in actual fact, what Mr. Ravi is doing is giving back the Naga cause to the rightful owners, because it is the IM who has hijacked the Naga national cause. The Naga national cause always stood for independence. Nagas did not even know of the existence of the word sovereignty. The IM has changed the narrative of the Naga history, right from the Naga Labour Corps to the Naga Club, to the struggle of the NNC. From independence, they have changed it to sovereignty, from sovereignty to shared sovereignty, and now they are talking about calling people traitors, hijackers,
Okay.
whereas they are the root cause of all the trouble that Nagas are facing.
Okay, Mr. Sumi, I'll come back to you. We'll expand We'll expand on what you were saying. I'll have to go for a break, but before that, Professor Xavier Mao, you have heard a very strong statement there from Mr. Kahuto Sumi of the Nagaland Gaumburas Federation. But today, yes, you cannot say that any one group is representing the Nagas. Nagas are the true believers of democracy. We have seen that over the years. But the point is, can we now completely say that what Mr. Sumi is saying, that NSC and IM has changed the narrative and hijacked the issue? What is your view? How do you look at it? Because this is a very clear view expressed by Mr. Sumi.
Well, what the NSC IM is asking to recognize the separate flag, separate constitution and integration, I think it is not absolutely impossible if there is flexibility of mind and openness of mind. If RSS group wants to replace the constitution with Manusmriti, then even all the other minorities will not have proper place in India. But if we want a strong federal kind of India, the interests of all the minorities should be also taken care of. So similarly, I think from the rigid standpoint, both the negotiating parties can come to the middle ground. That is, instead of replacing the Indian national flag, the so-called Naga flag can be along with Indian national flag, like Hong Kong or Macau, with the Chinese People's Republic of China, or in northern European countries, or even in Puerto Rico in USA. I think a lot of examples are possible. And then even separate flag or separate constitution are meaningless if integration is not there. And therefore, even on the part of the Naga people also, they should not ask all the ancestral land of the Nagas. That is also not practical. But 90% to 100% contiguous area can be easily integrated, can be easily unified. So I think with
very
that
quick
aim
question.
and the
Yeah,
aim
hold your
of
thoughts.
the
Hold your
good of
thoughts,
all
Professor.
the Nagas, including even
Got
the
your point.
non-Nagas.
Got your point.
Should be, their legitimate interest should be
Got
taken
your
care
point.
of.
Got your point.
Right.
You were trying to say something, Mr.
Yeah,
Siipuni.
thank you.
Mr.
Yes,
Mr.
yes,
Mr.
thank you.
Siipuni, Mr. Siipuni. Okay. Okay. Well, I think I'll go for a break. But when I come back, I'll go to Mr. Lohe, Mr. Sumi, and Mr. Siipuni of the Naga Students Federation. Don't go away. I'll be right back after this very short break. Welcome back. I'm going to Mr. Lohe, but before that, very quickly, Mr. Siipuni, Philo, when the NSC&IM, which is a key stakeholder, Mr. Philo, when the NSC&IM is a key stakeholder, when the NSC&IM is accusing the interlocutor, okay, this lot of problems going on, there is no connectivity. Let me go to you, Mr. Lohe. Mr. Lohe, if you can hear me, I don't think Mr. Lohe is hearing me. Mr. Lohe, can you hear me? Yes. Mr. Lohe, the point is,
very clearly.
Yeah, the point is, when stakeholders are accusing the interlocutor, when stakeholders are demanding a change in the interlocutor, at least one stakeholder is demanding a change in the interlocutor, demanding or accusing the interlocutor of trying to murder the future of the Naga people. Do you think that has made matters more complicated? And the ball is in whose court now? Ball is in the court of the government of India, or is the ball in the court of the stakeholders?
Well, to my understanding of the ongoing situation, I don't think that the governor of Nagaland, who is also the respected interlocutor, has ever committed any mistake or ever played any partiality in manning the process of negotiation. And therefore, I feel that there is no reasonability for anybody to oppose him personally or to try to oust him from his present position. I always appreciate the sincerity of the Honorable Governor in trying to expedite the process of the negotiation so as to bring solution at the earliest.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Siipuni, can you hear me now? Okay, all the time this line is getting disconnected. Let me once again go to Mr. Kahuto Sumi. Mr. Kahuto Sumi, the Nagaland Gaumburas Federation, they are particularly come into the picture not very long ago. You are hogging the limelight now. Don't you think it is also the responsibility of an organization like yours, which is a highly respected and influential organization comprising the Gaon Buras, who are very respected people, because, you know, the heart of Nagaland, as Governor Ravi said, beat in the villages. Now my question to you, are you also not responsible to, you know, is it not part of your responsibility to reach a common ground, sort out the differences so that a peace agreement is reached? Can you simply say the NSC and IM has hijacked and make allegations and counter allegations? Is it enough?
Mr. Hussain, thank you so very much for bringing up this issue. In September of 2017, the 9th of September 2017, I wrote an article entitled An Honorable Solution. And that was widely acclaimed from all sections of Nagas across Indian states and even the Nagas of Myanmar. Now that was because it was an unbiased solution. It is not difficult to find a solution to this problem. The problem is the players, many of the players have made a livelihood out of the Naga nationalism. And just see, even during this debate, the shift, IM is very good at things like this. They shift the narrative. They're talking about a flag and a constitution. And now they're bringing integration into it. Then they're blaming the interlocutor, Mr. Ravi. So, if I'm given the time, I can address all of this. I want to ask all my fellow panelists who are speaking on behalf of the IM.
I think nobody is speaking. We have not called them. We have called them as individual capacity representing their own organizations.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
No, because I call many of these organizations, I call the Naga Hoho and the NSF auxiliary organizations of the IM. I call them that because I know exactly what they are up to. Anyway,
Mr. Siipuni has to respond.
Carry on. My question to the IM is the NSC IM willing to abrogate its constitution? Mr. Hussain, kindly ask my fellow panelists if they are aware of the constitution of the NSCN, what it states. Because unless the NSCN IM comes out publicly stating that it has abrogated, it has renounced its constitution set up in 1980, until then, when they say flag and constitution, what they mean is flag and communism for Nagas.
Okay, hold on. Let me bring in other panelists onto the debate.
Yes, please do.
Viewers, let me make it very clear that all the panelists who have been invited on the show, they represent their own organizations. We have not called anybody representing either the IM or representing the NNPG. We are calling them as representatives, very respected representatives of their own organizations and very important Naga leaders. Let that be clear. Let me go to you, Mr. Siipuni Philo. Mr. Sumi has said that organizations like the Naga Hoho and your organization, that is the NSF, are auxiliary units of the NSC and IM. First of all, would you like to respond to that?
Well, Wasbir, I keep coming back to your show expecting to be hearing what our other esteemed panelists are saying. But sadly, I've not been able to hear what they're saying. But let me respond to our very respected Mr. Kahuto. Naga Federation as an organization was founded in 1947. We don't represent any Naga political groups. We represent the aspiration and the voices of the Naga youth and students. And we are a pan-Naga body. And when I say pan-Naga, it is 2 international countries and 4 Indian states. Whatever the understanding of the individual stating such things on live television would be of its own. But we as a federation, we are very clear of our founding principles. We have always tried our best to undertake every possible measures in order to ensure that our foundation principles are being upheld. We are not for the NSNIM. We are not for the NPGs. We are for the Naga people. And the motto of the Federation is very clear: for the unified lane and glory of the Nagas. Meaning that our focus is not only for the Nagas of Nagaland, as some few people wants to, expose and then talk about. Our focus is on the overall good of the Naga people, and we will continue to uphold it, no matter what the statements being put forward in so many areas. So for us, the welfare of the Naga people as a whole is the determining factor. Nothing else matters to us.
Right.
And no matter what has been said, that doesn't deter us from actually upholding the righteous principle of the Naga people's right for self-determination.
Okay. All right. Mr. Lohe, let me come to you now. I'm coming to you, Mr. Sumi. I'll give enough time to everybody because I want a balanced debate. Everybody should have their opinion. Let me go to Mr. Lohe. Mr. Lohe, there were some reports that your organization, the Naga Tribes Council, even suggested that there should be a separate agreement for the Nagas of Nagaland. Am I correct? And if so, in what way you are planning or you are thinking? What is your idea actually?
No, what the report you have received is false. The NTC has never given any such comment or has ever taken such a decision that there should be exclusive solution for the state of Nagaland alone. Whatever solution comes, signed by two parties of negotiation or by only one party of negotiation of the Nagas, for the Nagas. Solution will be for all the Nagas wherever they are. It will be inclusive solution.
Inclusive solution. Now, Professor Xavier Mao, yes, we are all expecting an inclusive solution. And it is not difficult. A lot of people will be asking, how can you have a solution for the Nagas in Myanmar? But it is not difficult. The government of India has to provide some aid to the government of Myanmar so that they can help the Myanmarese Nagas. So that is not so difficult. We can work it out. Government of India, India today is a big power. It's a big global power. It can work. It has friendly relations with Myanmar. So everything can be worked out. But the problem is, Dr. Xavier Mao, problem is at home. Like look at this debate. Mr. Sumi, he is entitled to his views. I am not saying that he is not entitled to his views. He is very much entitled to his views. Mr. Sumi has a stand. Mr. Lohe has a stand. Mr. Siipuni has his own stand. Now, this explains the difference in perception, difference in approach to reach a Naga solution to the 8-decade-old Naga problem. Now, we are in a democracy. Nagas are an extremely democratic society. I am not surprised at all at the different arguments put forward by these very respectable members of their own organization. My point is, Xavier, how do we reach a common ground? That is the big challenge. That is the big challenge.
Right. I fully agree with you, Wasbir, but in any kind of important political solution, we have to keep in mind the interests of all, if not all, at least the greatest number. That has to be kept in mind. If that is kept in mind, and we have to do away with sectarian, greedy, segmental, narrow, selfish interests, that should be set aside. Even in the past, from the Nagas of Manipur, some of the ministers, they betrayed. Even though under 60-point agreement, integration was there, but some of them refused. Therefore, such similar voice and sentiment is very much there even within Nagaland state. Therefore, I think the enlightened, intellectual, and good people should have a very comprehensive, inclusive kind of a solution, not only for the Nagas, but they have to take care of the non-Nagas, their neighbor. Their legitimate interest has to be taken into account. And therefore, with open mind, with flexibility, I think they can arrive at a middle ground. So the common interest should be uppermost. And I feel the separate constitution at this point of India's democracy's maturity is not possible, I feel. But flag can be flown alongside with the tricolor of the Indian national flag. That solution is possible. Plus, even integration is very much possible if the demand is not all the ancestral Nagaland. So that is also not practical.
Let me go to Mr. Sumi. Yes, hold your thoughts, Professor.
90%.
Okay.
And I had
I'm running short of time. Hold on, Professor, hold on.
Right.
I'm running short of time. Let me go to Mr. Sumi and bring some more aspects to the discussion. Mr. Sumi, there has to be a give and take, isn't it? In the last 23 years of negotiations, the ground has been prepared. If the NNPG today, let us be clear, the ground for negotiations was prepared by that ceasefire between the Government of India and the NSC and IM in 1997. The talks started from 1st of August 1997 after the ceasefire agreement was announced. Now that prepared the ground. Lot of differences have been narrowed down. Yes, NNPG has a perceptional difference in approach. That's fine. But do you agree, do you admit that the ground for talks, if you are talking today, it is because the ground was prepared during several rounds of consultations and discussions between the Indian government and the NSC and IM beginning in 1997 and before? Mr. Sumi.
If you're going to take Naga history in segments, yes, I will agree with you. But if you're going to take it as a whole, then NSC and IM is a recent player. They have not done much in comparison to what the NNC and the FGN did. But leaving aside that, see, the solution, it is there before our eyes. As I stated earlier, I had written on the 9th of September 2017. I have given the solution, the roadmap to the solution. So that is the stand of the Nagaland GB Federation. Now we want the IM to come up with their solution. Let the 7 NNPGs come up with their solution. Let us compare and contrast. Let us discuss. But what the IM is doing, I don't support the 7 NNPGs. But at least they have the decency to bring their proposals before the eyes of the public, the people of Nagaland, the Naga people. We are the stakeholders. We are the only stakeholders here. The Nagas of Manipur are stakeholders in their land. The Nagas of Arunachal are stakeholders in their land. The Nagas of Myanmar are stakeholders in their own land. The Nagas are stakeholders in Nagaland. So let us be clear. You bring your proposals, we'll bring our proposals. Let us compare and contrast. Then we approach the government of India.
Okay.
The ball is in our court.
Okay, this is a very clear statement. Very clear words there, Mr. Siipuni.
Yes.
Very clearly said. Yeah. Now, Mr. Siipuni, Mr. Sumi of the Naga Gaumburas Federation is saying that they have their roadmap ready, the NNPGs. Let the NSNIM also bring their a solution to the table. But
Yes.
but why can there be the direct talks between the two groups face to face? We have seen recently the opposition party, the NPF, Nagaland People's Front, has said that they are trying to organize a direct meeting face to face between the NSCN-IM and the NNPG, but we have not seen it happen. Do you think that is important? Do you think that is going to resolve some of these issues? Siipuni.
Absolutely, absolutely, Wasbir, absolutely. But what has been often misunderstood is that when the Naga people say early solution, is that the Naga people are willing to accept anything and everything the Indian government will give to us. No. The fact is that the political negotiation has been going for the last 33 years. Yes, people are tired. Yes, Naga people have been waiting for the solution to come. And yet, the solution that is to come, if it is not acceptable and honorable, as in wherein the dignity of every Naga individual is respected, then what's the point of having an agreement or a solution if it will be another 16-point charter of demands? And I've said it earlier that the common understanding of the 16-point agreement, the so-called 16-point agreement, is not an agreement, but just the 16-point charter of demands being forwarded by the NPC. And these demands are yet to be fulfilled even today. And if there are any Nagas out there willing to accept another piecemeal solution, it is not for the Federation to stop them. And the Federation is willing to be called by any name, but as the representative of the youths and students and their voices and their aspirations. We will not stoop down, and we will not be in acceptance of such a piecemeal solution.
Okay. Will not accept a piecemeal solution. That is what Mr. Siipuni Philo of the Naga Students Federation is saying. I'm running short of time. My final comments from you, Mr. Lohe. How do you expect things to unfold in the days ahead? Should the common Nagas, do you think they are prepared for yet another long haul? Do you think they have already waited for 8 decades for a solution? And now 23 years of continuous negotiations have been going on. Do you think the common Naga people are prepared to wait much longer once again? Mr. Lohe.
Yeah, Mr. Wasbir ji. I don't believe that there is such an issue of politics of the Nagas that requires 20 years debate between the government of India and the Naga political negotiators. It has been taking too much of our time and our energy for delaying the outcome of the political negotiation. We are tired of waiting for a solution. The people are ready to have the solution at the earliest. There is no peace in Nagaland. The peace that exists in Nagaland is pseudo and not genuine. The people will have peace only when solution arrives into our land.
Okay.
And therefore, the government of India is determined to give us the solution. Why delay? Because they have concluded the process of political negotiations in October last year. We have wasted another year. And the government of India also cannot afford to betray the Nagas. In order to have solution for the people, in order to let the people of the Nagas to enjoy peace, they have entered into political negotiations with the concerned parties. And therefore, the process of negotiation is over. What is the matter for government of India to delay? It is a question of the central government to give a call. And now the ball is in the court of the government of India.
All right, ball is in the court.
Call.
Ball is in the court of the government of India. That is what very senior political leader from Nagaland, Mr. Jed Lohe, is saying. Final comments, 20 seconds to you, Dr. Mao. Dr. Xavier Mao, you know, according to Mr. Lohe, negotiations are over. But if the NSCN-IM says no, what happens? 20 seconds, very quickly, no time.
Well, negotiation is not over. If negotiation is over, why stalemate? But I think NSCN-IM should also be guided by the contemporary pragmatism, and even including the government of India should be guided by that.
All right.
15 to 20 years' time, China will be world #1 power,
pragmatism.
and it will have its own geopolitical implication.
Right, Professor. Yeah. Sorry to cut you off there. Last comments from you, Mr. Sumi. Are you optimistic or not? Mr. Sumi, do you see light at the end of the dark tunnel? Mr. Sumi, final comments, 10 seconds.
I do. I disagree with Mr. Lohe only on that the ball is not in the court, the Indian court, but it is in the court of the Nagas. It is for us to decide. We will decide. We will decide. And the people will speak their minds. And we will let the Indian authorities know.
Absolutely. It has been an engaging debate. At the end of the day, yes, if anybody is fighting for the Naga issue, it is of course for the Naga people. Nobody can say that they are fighting for themselves, but it is for the Nagas at large. But yes, we are seeing different voices emerging from Nagaland. Of course, that explains as to why there is a stalemate to this protracted Naga issue and why a solution is eluding still after 23 years of continuous negotiations. On this note, I end this edition of Notice Tonight. I thank all my panelists for participating in the show and the viewers for watching the program. Good night and goodbye.